Hi, everybody. Glad we've got some architecture fans out here. This is not for me. Today we're going to talk about how technology is really changing the architectural field and how it's giving all of you an opportunity to impact the buildings that surround you. So really quickly, who I am. I am a practicing architect. There's an amazing slide of some of my work. But you can imagine, I run a 50-person firm in Lower Manhattan. We're doing, that's the name of the firm. And we're doing projects at multiple scales. This is a series of pavilions that we're building in Indiana. This is an innovation center for the University of Pennsylvania that's under construction right now in Philly. And our biggest project is 1,800 apartments that are under construction in New Jersey. So I also wear another hat. I run the architecture firm, and I run Architizer.com. And Architizer is a web startup that just raised a Series A financing. We are the largest database for architecture online. And we are creating a series of tools to help architects do their jobs better. So it's really these two brains that I come to this topic with. One, as a practicing architect, designing and building buildings, and on the other side, very much embedded into the tech community. So to tell you what's going on in the architectural world, I have to give you a very quick, lightning round speed of architectural history. It's not going to be as interesting as what Monica just spoke about, but I swear you'll love it. You're going to eat it up. It's going to be fast. So we have to go 30 years into the past, and we have to go to New Jersey, because I'm from New Jersey. 30 years ago in New Jersey, I was 8 years old. I lived in my parents' house in Livingston, New Jersey, and this was my childhood bedroom. Around the corner from my bedroom was the bathroom that I shared with my sister, and between the bedroom and the bathroom was a balcony that overlooked the family room, and that's where everyone would hang out. My brother and his cool friends would be there watching TV. So every time that I walked from my bedroom to the bathroom, everybody could see me. And every time I took a shower and came back in a towel, everybody could see me. And I looked like this. I was awkward. I was really, really insecure. And I hated that walk. I hated that balcony. I hated that house. And that's architecture. That is the power of architecture. Because architecture is not about math, and it's not about zoning. It's about these visceral, emotional connections that we make to the places where we spend our time. And it's not a surprise that we make these connections, because according to the EPA, Americans spend 90% of their time indoors. That's 90% of our time surrounded by architecture. That is huge. That means that buildings are impacting us and shaping us in ways that we don't even understand. That makes us a little bit gullible, and it makes us very, very predictable. It means that when I show you a building like this, I know what you think. You think power and democracy and stability. And I know you think that because it's based on a building that was built 2,500 years ago by the Greeks. This is a trick. This is a visual trigger that architects use to get you to have predictable emotional responses to the forms with which we build our buildings. And we've been using this trick for a really long time. We used it 300 years ago to build banks. We used it in the 19th century to build art museums. And then in America, in the 20th century, of course, we used it to build houses. And look at these stable little soldiers facing the ocean and keeping the elements away. This is really useful because building things is terrifying. It is complicated and it's hard. And the people that pay for it, governments and institutions and developers, they're naturally afraid of innovation. They'd rather just use the forms that they know that you respond to rather than take a risk on anything innovative. That's how we end up with buildings like, can you guys advance the slide? It's all ruined. The setup's gone. Well, anyway, I'm going to show you an amazing building That's in Livingston, New Jersey, my hometown. It's not it. It's not nearly that cool. So everyone's scared, right? So everyone's scared of building things. Let's see if it works. I'll let you guys move it to the next one. Yeah. Down, up, 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 up. Perfect. Put me back in charge. Thank you. This building. It's nice, right? It's fine. It's nice. It's got a dome, and it's got like this round thing and columns and red brick, and you can kind of guess what Livingston was trying to say when they built this building in 2004. They were trying to say history and property values and children, and that's all great stuff, except that it's got nothing to do with what a library actually does today. In that same year, in 2004, another library was built in this country, and it looked like this. Yes, Seattle Public Library by OMA. This is a library that's about consuming media in a digital age. It's about a new kind of public amenity for the city, getting together in different ways, sharing information. So how is this possible? Same year, same country, same building type, a library, and these two things look so completely different. And the answer is that architecture works on the principle of a pendulum. On one side is innovation, and architects are constantly pushing for new technologies, new typologies, new solutions for the way that we live today. And we push and we push and we push until we completely alienate all of you. We get very depressed, we wear all black, we're dead inside because we have no choice. We have to go to the other side. We have to re-engage those symbols that we know that you love. So we do that, we feel like sellouts. We start experimenting again, and we go to the other side, and then we go to the other side, and back and forth we've gone for the last 300 years, and certainly for the last 30 years. Okay, lightning round, begin. 30 years ago. 30 years ago, we were coming out of the 70s, experimenting with something called brutalism. This was about concrete, small windows, dehumanizing scale, really, really tough stuff. So by the time the 80s roll around, the pendulum's ready to switch back towards those symbols. So we re-engage them, but we update them for the 80s. We add neon, and we add pastels, and we use new materials, and you love it. You can't get enough of this stuff. We take Chippendale armoires, and we turn them into skyscrapers. And we turn skyscrapers into great big medieval glassy towers. Forms are getting big and bold and colorful. Dwarves are growing to the size of buildings. Swans are enormous. Things are crazy. But it's the 80s, so it's all right? It's cool. It's cool. We're all shopping in malls, and we're all moving out to the suburbs. And out in the suburbs, we can create our own architectural fantasies, and those can be Mediterranean or French or Italian. This is the thing about symbols. This is the thing about postmodernism. It's cheap. It's easy. Because instead of creating spaces, we're creating memories of spaces. Because I know, and I know you know, this isn't Tuscany. This is Ohio. So, of course, end of the 80s, early 90s, architects start experimenting, and we start to shove that pendulum back to the other side. We use new computer-aided design techniques to create a style called deconstructivism. We throw off those historical forms. We create new compositions that the world has never seen before, forms crashing into forms. Really academic, really heady stuff, super unpopular. Ordinarily, the pendulum would have just swung back into the other direction. And then something amazing happened. 1997, this building gets built. This is the Guggenheim Bilbao by Frank Gehry. And this building fundamentally changes the world's relationship with architecture. Paul Goldberger, the architecture critic, says that Bilbao was one of those rare moments when critics, academics, and the general public were all completely united around a building. The New York Times called this building a miracle. Tourism in Bilbao increased 2,500% after this building was built. So all of a sudden, everybody wants one of these buildings. You guys are messing up my whole flow. I got it right where I wanted it. LA, Seattle, Chicago, New York, Cleveland, Springfield. Everybody wants one of these buildings. And Frank Gehry is everywhere. He is our very first starchitect. So how does this happen, right? How did these forms, these are crazy, wild, radical forms, how did these become ubiquitous throughout the world? And it happened because the media galvanized around them, and they taught us. They taught us to make an emotional connections to these forms, that these forms mean culture and tourism. And every mayor in the world started to understand that these forms mean culture and tourism. So this phenomenon happened to a few other starchitects at the turn of the new millennium. It happened to the recently departed Ms. Zaha Hadid. It happened to Daniel Libeskind. But what happened to just these few, these elite few at the turn of the new millennium, started to happen to the entire field of architecture as media starts to speed up. Because think for a second about how you consume a building. 1,000 years ago, you would have had to have walked to the town next door to see it. Transportation speeds up. You can take a boat or a train. You can be a tourist. Media speeds up. You can read about it in the newspaper, see it on TV. Until now, we are all architectural photographers. And the building has become liberated from the site. This means that the speed of communication has finally caught up to the speed of architecture, because architecture actually moves pretty quick. It doesn't take long to think about a building. It takes a long time to build a building, maybe 2 or 3 years. So by the time that the architect is done building that building, they've already designed 2 or 4 or 8 or 100 other buildings before they know if that building that they designed 40 years ago was a success or not. That's because there's never been a good feedback loop in architecture before. That's how we end up with buildings like this. Brutalism wasn't a 2-year movement, 20 years. For 20 years, we were building buildings like this because we had no idea how much you hated it. It's never going to happen again, is my theory. Because when you apply media to that pendulum, it starts swinging faster and faster and faster until it's on both sides simultaneously, effectively blurring the difference between innovation and symbols, between us, the architects, and you, the public. It means that we can make emotional connections to brand new and sometimes wild forms. Let me quickly show you how this worked out in a project that my firm recently did in a town called The Pines on Fire Island. It's a vacation community, and we were hired to replace this building that burned down. We proposed this building. It was a little audacious. The community had never seen forms like this before, so we were scared, and our clients were scared, and the community was scared. So we created photorealistic renderings, and we put them online. We put them on Facebook and Instagram, and we let people talk about it, like it, hate it, whatever, engage with it. So that by the time the building opened and it looked exactly like the renderings, there were no surprises. This building was already a part of the community. And then when that first summer came around and tourists started showing up and sharing pictures online, the building ceased to be an edifice and became media. Because these aren't just pictures of a building, they're your pictures of a building. And with every tweet and every Instagram, you are short-circuiting our collective memory. That means we don't need the Greeks anymore to tell us what to think about buildings. We can tell each other what to think about buildings. This is really huge. And this is also an amazing recent event. Facebook just built a new campus. Last year it opened. Ironically, it was designed by Frank Gehry. That's Frank. That's Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know who the other guy is. Anyway, they opened it up, and they didn't make a big press release. They didn't issue glossy pictures of it. They invited 50 of the world's most famous Instagrammers to come and just hang out in the building and take pictures. That's how Facebook introduced their building to the world, because they knew that this is how you mainline architecture now. This is the new architectural discourse. Ah, dude, you rock. That's how we talk about architecture now. Or, oh my God, I want to work at Facebook. Architecture is a recruiting tool. This is fundamentally different than how we've spoken about architecture for the last 300 years. This media relationship means that architects aren't these scary figures wearing all black, we'll still wear black, using big words, complicated equations. And you're not the hapless public, the people who are afraid of consuming anything new. It means that architects can hear you now, and you're not afraid to be heard. That means that we're going to be seeing a lot of new types of buildings in the future of architecture. In Seville, Spain, the ancient city of Seville, Spain, a brand new tourist attraction that's the new heart of this ancient city, that's tailored to a modern city. In Brooklyn, this is a stadium in Brooklyn, not a red brick historical pastiche of what we think a stadium ought to be. We're going to have robots build our buildings because we're finally ready for the forms that those robots are going to create. This new future means that buildings will twist to the whims of nature and not the other way around. And it means that here in Miami Beach, a regular parking garage can also be a place for yoga and working out, and people get married there occasionally. It also means that no building is too small for innovation, like this little reindeer pavilion, which is as muscly and sinewy as the animals it was designed to observe. And finally, and this is my last example, it means that a building doesn't have to be beautiful to be innovative, like this ugly little building that is a product of the way that it was made. The architects dug a hole, packed it with hay, and poured concrete around it. And when the concrete dried, they invited someone to come and excavate it, eat all the hay out. So that when it's finished, all that was left is this hideous little room that's filled with the scratches and imprints of the way that the place was made. And it becomes the most beautiful place to watch a Spanish sunset. Because it doesn't matter. When you think about architecture, it doesn't matter if a cow builds our building or a robot builds our building. It doesn't matter how we build, it matters what we build. Architects already know how to make buildings that are greener and smarter and friendlier. We've just been waiting for you, the public, to want them. And finally, we are not on opposite sides anymore. Find an architect, hire an architect, work with us to build better buildings, better cities, and a better world. Because, and I swear to you, the stakes are high. Buildings don't just reflect our society, they shape our society, down to the smallest spaces, the local libraries, or the homes where we raise our children, and the walk that they take from the bedroom to the bathroom. Thanks, everybody.